Why, hello, Internet. My name is Prunk, and today I want to kind of show off a deck profile. It is a adjustment of my blue Sapphire Amethyst deck. It's definitely more of a mid-range build. It focuses on ramping up some by bouncing the Mickey Mouse and making good trades with Grandma Tala, and just so that way I can kind of get ahead in ink count and then play some bigger threats, which will hopefully control the board. I played a variation of this during my locals yesterday, and I also played this during a top eight. I'm sorry, a store championship, and I got second place with it. So I have adjusted it since that store championship, and this did really well at my locals yesterday. So I just wanted to see how we do. My before any changes on Pixelboard, I'm sitting at about a 68% win rate with this deck, and so I just made a few changes and tried to start testing it. So I'm playing around. So we're gonna kind of grow and see how well we can do in ranked together, and let's see where we land. All right, so before we start diving in, we do need to kind of talk about the deck list a little bit. So, looking at the graph, I have a pretty solid curve now. I'm playing a lot of one drops. I'm playing about 11 one drops, about 10 two drops, and lots of threes and fours. This is definitely more of a mid-range build until you can ramp up and then start plopping down the big ones at six, sevens, and eights, which we'll go over as they come up. So the general strategy of the deck is get ramp up as quickly as you can, so that way we can get to some of our bigger characters. We are playing Ursula's, Elsa's, and Tamatoa, so shiny. In order to do that, though, we need to survive the early game. Durnabog Follower, great card. It's either going to let me draw if I feel like I need to draw, or it's just a good body that people will allow me to take out their Robin Hoods or Captain Hooks with, or even their Smees if I'm playing on turn two. A lot of people expect you just to draw instantly with this card. It's not always the best option. Sometimes you just need to take out some of the early game threats, and I draw a lot, so sometimes I just don't need that draw. I just need that kill. So him being the 2-1, not too problematic, and most times he is attacking something or killing something or making a pretty favorable trade for me, so I am playing 4 copies of him. I am playing 3 copies of Pascal. I kind of wanted to put a fourth one in, just because evasives are starting to show up a little bit more, which is beginning annoying, and I hate dealing with evasives. But if that is the case, then maybe I would flip 3 Chernobog followers and 4 Pascals. But in the meantime, I am only playing 3 copies of him. He is just there to help me crab my way into some evasive kills. I am then playing Madam Mim Snake, 4 copies. You need 4 copies, period, of this. You want to bounce a lot of these lobies, especially our Mickey Mouse later on, but we'll go over that as it comes up. But you do want to bounce out the Pinocchio. So in my little tournament that we had, where I got second in, I said before, I'm like to my buddy, I need to see Pinocchio because he is there to help me remove Ursula threats and a bunch of stuff. I didn't really play much green, and so but Pinocchio is really good to deal with the threats that are just not shifting. Dealing with Rafiki, so that way you can make a favorable trade. Dealing with Ursula to make sure that you have options. Like there's so many good ways Pinocchios will show up. I like him at 2. Sometimes he is too much at 2, but I do need to see this card pretty often to deal with threats on my terms, especially when I want to try and crash Grandma Tala into some of those threats when I have like maybe a crab or something to play around with as well. So Grandma Tala, you are going to want to make as many favorable trades as you possibly can with this card, and how you do that is by playing crab. So we're going to jump down to crab a little bit. +3, and when he leaves and enters the field, allows me to make a favorable trade, skipping a turn of ink, basically just putting Grandma back out in the field and hopefully killing something that they didn't want me to kill or didn't expect me to kill. So Grandma Tala, very much an MVP of this deck, and I playing 4 copies of her. If I don't have Crab, then hopefully I have Madam M Snake, so that way I can bounce the Grandma and then run into something that I need to run into. So 4 copies of Snake and Mim, Fox, really, really needed. Here is Mickey Mouse Detective. So this is the ramp tools. I have considered Pooh. I have considered Fishbone. I have considered everything else. They do not work. I am bouncing things so I can play on turn on summon effects, and Mickey Mouse is the best card for that. So we are going to want to see him in a ramp. We are only playing 3 copies because 4 can be too much. Sometimes 3 feels too much, but I want to see this card early so that way I can get my ramp engine moving right away. 4 copies of Goat. Why would you not play 4 copies of Goat? It's inkable. It has a great stat line, and it gives you at minimum 2 lore anytime it hits the field. So, yeah, we're playing 4 copies of Goat. We are only playing 3 rabbits. This was hard for me to want to cut, but I just wanted to keep my uninkables a little bit lower because I am playing some big cost uninkable things. and I got mana screwed really, really hard, and it cost me a championship map. And so we are playing only 3 copies of Rabbit, unfortunately. We are playing 4 copies of Hiram. He is not the only draw engine in this deck. That's kind of what I really like about this color scheme is I don't have to rely on Hiram to draw, unlike how I had to do it with Ruby Sapphire. So he is a great draw engine. He is a great stat line for me. I can sing with him if I don't have the items because I'm not playing that many items. But he is just a constant threat, and honestly, he's a good target to Crab. It's just so he won't die, and I can make a pretty favorable trade and keep him alive. So Hiram stat line and Crab, love it. Masterpiece. Yzma, 3 copies of Yzma. She is my only direct removal in this deck. I kind of have to play Yzma, unfortunately. Giving my opponent 2 cards is not the end of the world if it means I'm going to live and play another turn. And sometimes I have to. If I have full control over the board and they drop like a resist character, I will pass them that 2 cards. It came in really handy in my locals yesterday. I had to send a Cinderella, the Stout-Hearted, back to my opponent's deck. They had an empty hand, so I didn't really mind. They drew 2 cards and just didn't have enough things to deal with my Elsa that was also on board at the time. We were playing 1 copy of Ursula. I like this card a lot. She is very powerful. She does lose to Medusa, but she comes out after Medusa, so a lot of people will often use Medusa on like a rabbit or something smaller target to feel like they have control. Not many people would expect an Ursula, so they really aren't saving anything for her. And so being able to bounce her and just to take away some lore, it has won me a couple games. There was a game where I bounced this card 5 times, and it literally saved me from losing. So Ursula, just playing 1 copy. I want to see her, but I don't want to see her till the end game, and she can close out some games for me pretty easily. I'm playing 2 copies of Elsa. I was playing 3, and I saw her in my opening hand almost every game, so I cut her down to 2. Again, you do need to see her, but you don't want to see her till the late. Other target is Tamatoa, so shiny. We are playing 4 copies of him. I love playing 4 copies of this card because it is inkable, it has a great stat line, it doesn't lose too much, and then it does give me some recursion, so if I am playing like a discard engine, I'm often discarding items, so that way I can get him back with Tamatoa. I'm not playing too many items, similar to the Hiram, but I think the items that I am playing have great recursion, and Tamatoa is just always live to me in some form. We are playing 4 songs, so I consider the Moana song, How Far You'll Go. Ultimately, it's uninkable, and I am honestly just kind of tired of seeing green. I'm seeing a lot of Ursula Deceivers, so I'm playing as little songs and as little things that can discard for me as possible because I've just been seeing so much green steal. It's been driving me crazy. So I am only playing 4 songs. And even if I'm playing a green deck online, then you will see me ink this card before turn 2, just because I'm expecting a Ursula Deceiver to snatch it out anyways. So we might as well get use out of it while we can. For our items, we're only playing 6 items. We are playing 4 Popsicles, 1 Sorcerer's Spellbook, and a Lucky Dime. Originally, I had 2 Spellbooks and instead of the Lucky Dime, and it was good. It was consistent, but I like having the massive swing power of Lucky Dime, and it has won me games. So don't want to see it. It's often going to be it's probably going to be discarded early on, and then gotten back by Tamatoa once I've ramped up enough. We're only playing 2 Queen's Castle. I considered putting 4 and then just playing like a 62 card deck, but ultimately I kind of decided maybe 2 is just fine enough because I don't always want to see it. It's great to see it like turn 6 or something, and then just start moving some of my rabbits and goats or talas or something like that to the castle, so that way they either have to deal with it or kill something at the castle. So I like the card a lot. I just don't need to see it all the time, but when it goes off, man, it goes off. I love that card. And so that is our deck list. Let us see how well we do in these matchups. Alright, so first match against a Ruby Amethyst. So overall, I've always kind of felt a little confident against the Ruby Amethyst matchup, probably because I played it a lot during set 2. I have a very strong opening hand. I'm going to start by inking up probably like one of our higher cost cards with like an Yzma. And I'm debating between the Popsicle and the Pascal, but ultimately I feel like just having that little bit of aggro, because then I can drop down the Grandma Tala onto the field and just get a little bit more advantage. My opponent starts to think around and see what they want to do. They are going to ink at Queen's Castle, and they are going to play out the Chernabog. So from here, we obviously ink the Tamatoa. We're not going to need him for a while. We drop down the Tala, and we will quest for the Pascal. As the opponent starts to quest around, considering if they want to draw for a card. they decide not to, saying, hey, like, if you're going to trade, we're going to make some favorable trades. Or he's probably just going to bounce a snake, which is always what is expected. But instead, he surprises me playing down the Cusco. I do ink the Queen's Castle and start to try and ramp up quite a bit. We are making that trade, and so I'm sitting at 5 ink early on. Quest for the Pascal safely. I feel pretty confident here because now I have the Hiram, I have Popsicles in my hand. They don't even know that it's coming, and I'm going to end up getting a massive amount of draw for this next turn. The only thing that really scares me is the Minnie Mouse Surfer that does come out, so I do need to play a little bit more safely, but if getting another Popsicle kind of solidifies what I'm doing. We do pop down the Hiram combo, get some draw, and seeing that crab is exactly what I want to do. So I'm going to play the extra Popsicle, get an extra draw. I'm going to quest with the Mickey, or I consider it at least, but then I'm like, wait, I got crab as well. And so I figured I can make some more favorable trades with the crab, so I decided ultimately not to. And same thing with the Pascal, I didn't want to lose my chance to take out the Mini, so he does choose to sing with the song. And at this point, I'm smiling and grinning because Crab is going to do some work here. We're going to take out Pascal with the Minnie Mouse. Very favorable trade on our part. We are just going to quest and then bounce the Crab back. Give the challenger to the Fox and run into the castle. Stop them from being able to lure up. And we still haven't even quested with the Hiram. So we pop the Popsicle, draw 2 more cards, and I am feeling great. We'll ink the Goat because it's a win more card. We'll play the extra Popsicle for Hiram next turn if he survives, and continue. Here my opponent has very limited options. He can play a Goat, he can play a Rabbit, he can do something, but unless he drops a Maui, I'm again feeling confident. So I expect the Maui to take out Hiram, but what does kind of surprise me, he runs in, so he just doesn't have the Maui, so he has to really consider. He decides to draw in. He can crash the Goat if he wanted. I probably would have crashed the Goat into something first, but he just quests and passes. So at this point, this is my game. There's really not much that I feel like my opponent can really do to come back. I got Tamatoa out on the field on turn 6. I'm going to just start questing, drawing more cards, getting more ink, and I just decided to take out the Cusco. I got 2 turns before I have to expect Be Prepared, so I'm going to make the best of it, and we're just going to quest away at... We're going to control the field, see what he drops here. I'm expecting a Medusa of some sort or something to pop the Hiram, which is going to be expected. And he drops a Hydra, surprisingly enough. So not quite what I was expecting by any means, so we are just going to ramp up. I gotta figure out what I need to play though, because at this point I'm expecting him to have Be Prepared next turn. So I don't want to risk and play anything major that's going to cost me some advantage. So like I kind of just drop a Goat to say, hey, I will gladly just take some lore. We'll just start questing away. Do for the Tamatoa, grab another Popsicle, and from here, obviously questing with the Hiram, popping a Popsicle as well. And I see the Yzma, which makes me think I could just spin it to win. I did mean to ink that, but I didn't realize I already inked for the turn, and so kind of plopped it onto the field. And from here, again, I am expecting a Be Prepared. There's no reason a player would not do it, but he drops the Medusa, so he just doesn't have the Be Prepared, or he doesn't have the ink to ink the Be Prepared because he's sitting at 6 ink right now, right off the bat. So obviously, if I feel like if that anybody looked at that board and they had the ink, he definitely got mana screwed, I believe, on this point, because he doesn't even ink for this turn, I believe. But he is looking at the Hydra. I figure he's going to try and trade into the Tamatoa, but he decides to hit the Mickey just to kill the Pascal. This telegraphs to me that he has no ink, or he has 2 Be Prepareds in hands, but I'm kind of willing to take the safety bet. Questing for the Tamatoa, grabbing another Popsicle out of this engine, questing with the Goat, questing with that, and we just say, hey, end it. We're going to bounce the Goat and play the Goat and take a very, very clean victory over Ruby Amethyst. So the next match against a Sapphire Steel. Instantly trying to trade off some of my uninkables. I'm playing Sapphire Steel, or I'm sorry, not Sapphire Steel, Amber Steel, knowing that going second against this deck is so tough, especially for my deck list. And it's an uphill battle throughout this entire game. I keep the Pinocchio because I need it to trade into the aerials. I need it to be able to trade into almost everything that this deck allows me to do. So Pinocchio is definitely an MVP, and I try my best to protect him. But going second against this deck is not. It's not fun, man. This is, I think Amber Steel has the best turn one going first like win ratio out of any deck because they just have that full control. Dropping a 5-drop on turn 2, instantly killing a Chernobog's followers. At first, I'm kind of like, okay, well, at least it's getting it out of their hand, but it becomes a really big uphill fight. I have to waste the Pinocchio, or otherwise I pass. And hopefully, if he doesn't see it as a threat, I can hopefully bounce it next turn and kind of do some more stuff. Just playing the card to play something because I don't have any other option. My opponent immediately recognizes that I didn't have an option. I don't, and he's probably banking on the fact that I have the Fox. So he does do things in order to protect himself. Inks the Benja, plays the Aerial, searches for a song, gets a song, the perfect song, Let the Storm, sings the song, pops the Pinocchio. And again, at this point, I already kind of expect myself. I'm like, I don't think I can win from here, so I need to ramp. And I need to go and try and ramp as hard. I'm really, really counting on seeing a crab at this point because I need to make at least one favorable trade here and see what I can do. My only option here is just I need to ramp up and play my big cost Ursula. I need to play my big cost card. But seeing the flute and then seeing the whole new world, he does get rid of his hand at 3 whole new worlds in his opening hand. So fully understand why he did that, but man, that card just hit me rough right there. And he just starts to spam the field down. Questing for the queen. No, the fact doesn't really matter. Sings the song, plays the flute, and again, my focus at this point is like I kind of need to ramp. I did get a crab, which does allow me to make a favorable trade, but the problem here is I still don't have a massive option to follow it up. Even at 5 ink on this turn, I am really limited on what I can do, so I decided to take out the Aerial as it does allow me to keep Mickey alive, play the Grammatala. I'm sorry, no, I played the Snake. I thought I was playing the Grammatala, and just trying to make sure that my characters can stay alive. Because if he quested, I figured Smee would probably take out the Mickey for free. And seeing another Aerial in this list, seeing Bare Necessities, I don't have to worry about that card really at all. So I'm okay with seeing that come up. I was hoping he would just hardcast it or something, and he decides not to do anything. So here's where that Pinocchio would have been really nice, but unfortunately it did not work out that way. We are just going to try and drop the board, play as many cards that will allow me to ramp as possible. And so I just dropped the Tala and the Mickey again. Seeing another Queen is scary here, and so I'm like, all right, there are 3 people that are going to sing 5 songs, 5 cost songs, so I am worried here. But I do have a massive advantage at the moment in terms of ink, because I'll end up going to 8 ink, so hopefully getting to see Elsa. But he does Zeus out the crab, which is the worst case scenario. You should always be popping crab on your turn if possible. Give it to Snake, not that it matters. Storm Rage on, sing another song, just popping another one, and getting a quest. The Bare Necessities, not a big deal to me. I'm not playing too many non-character cards. Does quest with the Smee, does quest with the Queen, and here he's sitting at 1 card in hand, and I have to come back from this somehow. I do try and trade in Grammatala into the Smee, so that way it just dies on its turn. It's the only real option I have. We're going to bounce the Mickey Mouse. We're going to kill the Aerial. We are going to ink an Yzma and play another Mickey just so I can play a Grammatala again. He's got that better field board control right now. He's ahead on lore. He's got very, very strong lore people. So it will be. This is not a good matchup at this point. Even though he only has 2 cards and he drops down to 1, I expect a whole new world or something again just to fill up his hand. But it does not come this time around. It drops a Ursula, which I just inked my Yzma, which feels horrible, unfortunately. So his Smee is going to take out my guy. Smee's going to end up dying anyway, so it was interesting that he went that route. But it's what he did. Does quest, does buff, not that it matters, does sing the song, and that thankfully does die because I definitely needed it too. And I am kind of struggling at this point. We are going to start bouncing the Mickey again. we're just going to try and take out one of these queens while we can. We're going to drop the detective and drop the castle. Nope. Yeah. So we make the trades we can and hope to buy ourselves some time with the queen's castle. See if he will allow it to take the bait and basically, and not quest. The Bare Necessities, another dead, again, it comes out dead. Just playing around that card, building my deck that way, but there's not much I can really do against this. I do manage to freeze a queen, with a queen, so a great top deck. We're going to move her into the castle. I do decide to ink the Grammatala. She's not doing much in my hand, just in case I get another big character. And at this point, I'm hoping for a comeback. If I can get any kind of comeback, then it amazing. But I just have to draw into the crab, which I do, and manage to make a really good trade. At this point, man, if he does not draw a song for 2 turns, I feel like I can win this game. So I am going to start flooding the board. I'm going to put them all over into the castle and get just so I can get some extra draw. Unfortunately, he does top deck into a song, and not just any song. He lets top decks into the Storm Rage on to let him draw an additional card. I, at this point, know he has a song in his hand. I don't think I can stop it, and I kind of know it's good game. If I had one more turn, man, one more turn is all I needed, and this game would have been mine to take. But unfortunately, that having that extra song, having the flutes on the field, he's got everything he needs, and that is good game. We run into another Ruby Amethyst deck list, and again, I usually feel pretty confident against this. My opening hand is not as good right here though, so I have to kind of make some really tough decisions to try and just give myself a good flow. I do end up pulling pretty well, thankfully, because I got a snake and a Chernobog follower. So I do need to ink the goat. I am playing the Chernobog just because I want that field presence so that way I can bounce the snake. And I kind of see where we go from here. Does ink a Rafiki as the 1-drop, dropping down another Cusco, and quests in. So from here, I'm going to ink 1 snake. I don't need 2. And we're going to quest. We're not going to pop it and bounce the snake, just to allow myself to make some favorable trades, and we'll pass the turn. Inking a Cusco, he goes in and plays a Maleficent, so he is getting his draw power pretty quickly here. Considers Cusco, considers the Minnie Mouse, says, hey, I'm gonna if you want to kill it, I'll gladly draw. I will kill it so he can draw. And from here, I'm just kind of debating on what I want to do. I do have a couple options for ramping, so I'm going to take the Detective Mickey instead of dropping a bunch of 1-0s, and just help myself ramp up so that way I have the Elsa in my hand and I want to get to her as quickly as I can. He does sing with the friends on the other side. And finally decides to quest with a Minnie Mouse. And takes forever to play. I'm doing all these at 1.5 speed too, by the way, which is I find hilarious of just things not happening. So he does put down everything with Snake. He does try and cement his board really well. And I kind of have to decide on how I want to take this trade. We're going to start by singing, and we will end up bouncing, I believe. We end up doing the bouncing after, I think. But I'm looking at the board, trying to figure out what kind of decision I want to make. I play the Popsicle, and then I use the Popsicle to actually heal. A lot of people don't utilize the healing engine to it, and in this deck list, it turns out really well. So from here, we are just going to drop the Grand Matala. I do have some things that can extra ink. I don't need another Chernobog at the moment. So I ink that card, play the Snake, bounce the Mickey so that way I can get more ramp, because again, I want to get to Elsa as quickly as possible, especially considering this guy is flaming the board with a bunch of stuff. He decides to take the trade with Minnie Mouse, which is understandable. I thought he would take it with Rafiki, but understand why he did the Minnie. And from here, if I can draw a goat, I can make a really favorable trade with my grandma. He does ink his own crab, which just taunts me in the face, and then plays another Rafiki, so he is playing a really low-cost engine. We're going to drop the Popsicle down. We're going to ink this Tamatoa, don't need him for a while, and play the Hiram. Destroy the Popsicle, get some 2 draws, And I draw into another Popsicle, which is great. And from here, I have to kind of decide. I will trade into, or I will quest with Tala because I don't really care if you kill it, but I am not going to take the snake bait. I want to keep him around in case I need to kill the rabbit or something first. He does quest with the rabbit. Questing with the snake. Says, hey, if you're going to make the trade, I'll allow you to make the trade. Plays a goat. Now at that point, I always get worried when I see a goat. Just seeing that card and having like a more mid-range life point total or lore to count always throws me off a little bit. But seeing the crab is exactly what I want. So I do make the trade with the snake into the with the Tala. Give myself a little bit extra ink. Make the snake trade. Quest with the Hiram. Popping the Popsicle, I kind of need to still figure out what I want to ink. I have a few options. I start to think about Pascal and start looking at my hand and tallying up the count. And so ultimately I decide with Grandma Tala. I just don't think she's going to have a chance to really play. This does allow me to play Mickey and then flood the board a little bit more. He hasn't gotten to the Be Prepared yet, so I can, if he decides to do anything, I can make some favorable trades and force him to be prepared to play Be Prepared. And he does go in, takes out the Hiram with a crab. Good to see. Well, good for him at least. He does go in with a goat questing. I don't think he quests with the other Rafiki. Yeah, he makes the trade with the other Rafiki, I believe. Decides to ink a Mana Mim Snake, which is always kind of surprising this late into the field, but he must be baiting for the Be Prepared. He does bounce another Fox with the goat to get himself some extra lore. And so he's definitely in control at this point. I'm going to ink the Chernobog because, again, I just don't need it that much. And I decided to place Elsa down just to kind of, in case he does have... It's kind of a dumb call in retrospect, but I did want to clear the board just in case he didn't have Be Prepared. And this does kind of make it so that way it forces him to be prepared just 2 cards. So if he has Be Prepared, then he can wipe out this list, and I'll be able to kind of control the board a little bit more out. But he decides not to, or doesn't have it, and drops a goat. And at this point, I'm feeling pretty confident so that I can make some better trades. So we play this. We're going to bounce the Pinocchio back, make its trade with the Fox, quest for Elsa, quest for Mickey, and say, hey, if you are going to, if you're not going to make the trades, then I will. If you don't have to Be Prepared, then I'm going to kind of be a little bit dangerous, but I am still playing around it, and I throw down the spellbook instead of playing another character, just in case, and getting me that extra lore. He makes the mistake of attacking his Cusco with his Mickey Mouse, and he caused the whoops, and I got the whoops as well. That was definite misplay on his part, because he could have gotten that trade to get a extra card. And I'm assuming he has Be Prepared in his hand and just not inkable. Yeah, so he plays the rabbit, and I definitely go in for the quest. I make the trade, and I kind of just have to figure out, I'm like, all right, if he has the Be Prepared, then it would be not really to my advantage to actually drop something big. If he doesn't, then I can basically win right here. So I take the risk just because I have a bit of draw power. Decided not to ink anything, and I just decided to pass afterwards and say, hey, if you got to Be Prepared, you better play it now. Does decide to ink a Minnie Mouse, which is good news for me, but bad news because that's 7, and he does have to Be Prepared. So now I have to kind of consider, okay, well, I do at least have a Tamatoa out on the board. Let's drop this and play a Popsicle again, get myself some more draw, get that quest. And I feel like as I did this, I was like, oh shoot, I have to play around Tremaine. So I do ink and play a Pascal just in case of that. Unfortunately, he does have a second Be Prepared, so very brutal for us this time, but we do have a rabbit to help recover. We draw into another rabbit, and we do have an Yzma. At this point, I'm kind of debating if I want to ink anything extra, so I just decide to pass, just because I felt like the extra draw power. It's not quite a game over yet, so throwing them down onto the board. He does play a book, inks a crab. And so he's behind, but he does play a goat, which is, again, terrifying to see this late in. He does play the book, and I decide to play the Pinocchio and take out the... before he's able to bounce goat too much, I'm just going to take it out right away. puts him to 15. We're in very dangerous territory here. I decide to spin a rabbit to help me get that little bit of an extra boost. Hopefully ink something that I don't want to keep around. Decide on inking the Queen's Castle before playing the book. But 5 lore, 8 ink. It's not an impossible turnaround here. And he does go for the Tremaine. I decide to pop the rabbit to get myself in a little bit extra draw. And at this point, I'm feeling the game is over. Another Ruby Amethyst player defeated. Alright, this next game, seeing a Ruby Amber. I know some really good Ruby Amber players, and so I did not want to take this deck lightly in the shortest. So I don't have the best starting hand, but I instantly just shuffle away. It's playable enough where I'm going to be able to flood the board a little bit. I decided to ink the Tamatoa, play a Chernobog Follower as my opening play instead of the Popsicle. Again, just in case they draw into a snake or something that will allow me to bounce it. Seeing the Piglet Pirate scares me slightly, just because I can deal with an aggro list, but he doesn't play anything, so at this point I'm like, okay, I can actually ramp up a little bit and I'll be safe. I decide to take the card this time because I didn't want to have to ink anything extra so far. I liked how my hand was forming up. I knew I was going to ink the Yzma this turn, but now seeing the Dock. I don't have a good out for it at the moment, unfortunately, on turn 3. I decided to hold on to the Yzma just in case I needed the draw power. And drawing into a Grandma Tala was pretty nice because now I have some options to, if I need to crash into something, I can. If I get a crab, then even better. But if worst case, I have the fox in order to crash into whatever he is bringing out onto the field, and it comes out as a Mufasa. Here I just go in for the questing, and we definitely go and try and make the trade against the Dock. Do not want to allow him to ramp. It has 2 lore as well, and we're gonna just ink this Grandma and pass. The Mufasa is a little scary, but what comes out next, the Maui, definitely scary. I was not expecting him to make the trade against Tala. That I felt at first was pretty strong, but drawing into the Hiram, this is allowing me to get some draw power into this, and I'm hoping like, okay, well, he's going to quest for 2. I will hopefully be able to set up the board, and I had to kind of debate. I decided to throw down the Chernobog because I feel like I can make the trades if I needed to. But here is where things kind of go bad with the Medusa. Popping out the Hiram was very, very bad because I was hoping I'd be able to use it for a trade. And I decided to take the hit on Mufasa. Hope he doesn't pull anything crazy good. It was just a Pluto, so it could have been significantly worse. But here's where I feel like I make the misplay really badly. Going in and making the trade to let the already wounded Maui take out a fully healthed Fox. That was a massive misplay. I should have just allowed him to do the Pluto because he only had 3 cards in hand at that point, or he was only going to have 3 cards in hand. And losing a Fox so early like that was just devastating. And unfortunately, now he's able to spam the board, get his extra cards back onto the field. And with the Rapunzel heal, he's in full control. And there's not much I can really do at this point. Rapunzel is such a strong card. We decide to ink Friends, drop another rabbit. I have a crab in hand, but I need something to help me bounce it. Depending on what he plans here, I could Elsa his board and try and stall a little bit. But dropping the Mickey Mouse Brave Tailor, I was not mentally prepared for that at all. So I could only hope to crab and make some favorable trades here, and really hope that I could have gotten to like a Rapunzel or something with this rabbit. I'm not Rapunzel, I'm sorry, the Pascal, to try and deal with it. I do draw into the Pascal and have to kind of decide on what to actually ink and play, because I keep the Yzma, I'm looking at the Pascal, I'm like, should I even bother? Should I use the Yzma or should I use the Pascal? I ultimately decide to ink the Tala, play the Queen's Castle to hopefully buy myself some time, and again, I feel like that was another major misplay. I should have played the Pascal and played the Friends on the other side, but I was hoping that he would kind of attack into this. It just wasn't the right play whatsoever. Drawing another Elsa, then comes in, drops a Rapunzel again, heals up, drawing 2 more cards. This last few turns was a slew of bad decisions, and unfortunately because of it, like I freeze the Mufasa, making him not a major threat, and then I go in and attack it with a snake. So like, it all kind of went downhill, man. It could have been better. This was a bad decision to even make that trade. I should have just quested and passed, but being able to drop down the Stitch for free, basically, that was game over, man. It was too many bad decisions in a row, and that was a bad game on my part. We get to see a purple steel. So purple steel has been my bane through tournaments. I have lost once in Swiss and once in finals against this deck. So it has been quite annoying to deal with. And so I'm expecting mid-range. We're playing ranked here. Inking the Chernobog followers to play a Chernobog. He does ink a Jafar, which I'm like, okay, it's not uncommon. So it doesn't mean he's playing Jafar engine. But I do decide to quest and not kill off the Chernobog's followers. I decide to play the 2 Popsicles instead, or at least until I draw the Pascal. So I decide to drop the Pascal. So if he wants to run into Robin Hood, that to me says that he does not have the shifting, but he does play a Smee and just chooses to pass. So he does have Robin Hood. That tells it to me right off the bat. I don't have a good, clean way of dealing with Robin Hood yet. So I have to kind of decide on what I want to do. I end up questing and popping the Chernobog Fowler, which in hindsight I don't think was the best decision. But I felt like I needed the extra card, I needed the ramp, and I wanted to kind of make sure I could get up and quest with the Pascal. And hopefully I was just wanting to outpace the mana before anything came in. But here comes the Robin Hood. Smee comes out, takes the extra damage. Considering inking the crab because I have a second one. And I'm like, what? From here, it really came out to I have to really decide on how to play this out. I was afraid to get rid of the crab, so I was hoping to draw into something else that I could ink instead, but that decision made it for me. We were inking crab, dropping a rabbit just to get more field presence because I didn't have quite enough power to one-shot the Robin Hood yet. And I still wasn't completely sold on what I was trying to kill. Playing. What am I playing against totally? But seeing the blue fairy, to me that instantly said, okay, we are playing against a Jafar deck. So now I need to really prepare myself because if he is able to drop Jafar, then we have some issues. I decided to bounce the Mickey so I can get some extra ramp, and inking the Chernobog follower is not as important as Grammatala. We are going to give ourselves a nice little bump to take out that box of Robin Hood. And I decided to make the trade with the rabbit just to get a little bit extra draw power. He can't whole new world me this turn, so or at least not gain massive advantage from it. So I decided to quest with the Pascal. He inks the small Jafar, solidifying that, oh shit, we're playing Jafar, but drops another Robin Hood on turn 5. And this time I don't have the tools to really deal with it yet. He does quest with Blue Fairy, which was very interesting to me. So I do run that into with Pascal. I decided to take the draw, ink the Tamatoa to prepare myself for my Elsa incoming, and drop the field just in case he does decide to whole new world. That way I'm at the advantage versus him. But he does grab your swords, which isn't the end of the world at first. Say, okay, I got Grammatala out of it, but playing the second one was pretty brutal against me. I do see the ink of the Jafar. He decides not to do it. I kind of decide to, let me just drop the Lucky Dime because I didn't see any removal yet. And I didn't want to waste Tamatoa or anything yet. But seeing the Beast, I start to panic a little bit. I decided to drop Tamatoa, seeing that it's 4 items and I got a Lucky Dime. We're going to go for that. If you have the hard clear, you got the hard clear. But yeah, and of course he does have the hard clear. Hitting me with a Zeus, and does sing the whole new world. He had 3 of them in his hand, so he was breaking pretty hard, but that does set him up so that we can smash the board. Here I am, empty board against a Beast and a Robin Hood, deciding on what to do. I decide on not using popping the Hiram, now that I don't have any extra major costs. I decide to ink the other one because there's just not a reason for me to do another. And I decided to drop the Ursula to try and take away a little bit of lore, give myself some field presence. It's an 8 cost card that is really tough for Steel to deal with, or 8 health card. And he does Yzma spin it away. And oh boy, I did end up drawing into my Elsa, which was pretty convenient at this time, so I can kind of freeze the board and decide on how I need to deal with this board. So I ultimately play down my Elsa, freeze the Jafar just in case he does have another option to, uh, just in case he has the option to shift and then play something else and draw. I decide to Lucky Dime, drop another Grammatala on the board and say, hey, it's do or die. I have Tamatoa next turn and a Lucky Dime and a Goat. So it was basically win this turn or not to him. He goes hard on the draw, looking for a out or looking for an answer. Does manage to kind of trade the board quite well, taking out the other Hiram, and then spinning the Elsa. He found his answer, so not too bad, but just because of the frozen, I just drop my Tamatoa, grab a Popsicle, and thankfully playing the Grammatala last round saved my butt here, and we're just able to ink and quest for game. So those were just 5 really good games that I got to play online. Wanted to show you some wins, wanted to show you some losses. And it was kind of nice because I think I only played Ruby Amethyst like twice, and so I got to see a little bit of different deck lists and stuff. The only thing I wish I would have gotten to see was against Sapphire's Ruby Sapphire. I didn't play one for a little bit, so yeah, that's the deck profile, guys. That is some gameplay to it. I hope you enjoy this. Hopefully you like this content. I would love to do more Lorcana stuff. I'm super pumped after playing in the Inklands Championships and getting 2 Rockstar Stitches. So if you want to see more content like this, please hit the like, subscribe, let me know in the comments. I'm doing a little bit of everything. I know that's not the right way to do YouTube. I do wrestling stuff, I do Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'm doing Lorcana. This is just my channel. I'm kind of having fun with it. But if you guys want to see anything, please let me know in the comments, and I will catch you all next time.